What's up, Taiwan? I'm Louise with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Taiwan's military is wrapping up coastal defense drills in the country's east. It's been more than 30 years since it carried out similar exercises in the area. As Jaime Ocon reports, that highlights the growing threat from China.
Taiwanese Marines preparing for a coastal defense exercise. For the first time in 34 years, the military is carrying out these drills on this beach on Taiwan's east coast. Taiwan usually carries out these exercises on the west coast, facing China. But in recent years, Beijing has stepped up military activity in waters off the east of Taiwan, operating more naval ships in that area. Taiwan's soldiers are now trying to adapt and boost their combat readiness as the threat evolves.
东岸已经不是我们安全的后花园，相对来讲，有可能东岸也会变成駁火的战场。所以其实对我们来讲的话，我们的所有的防卫都要去依据解放军现在实力的一个变化去做调整。
Coastal defense is a huge part of Taiwan's overall defense strategy, as it's an island nation. For decades, Taiwan has been preparing to defend against an all-out invasion from China, which has vowed to take it by force if necessary. As part of its defensive preparations, the military has identified roughly 20 beaches that China would most likely try to land troops on to attack Taiwan. These are known as red beaches. Now, while the majority of these red beaches are on the west coast facing China, a few of them are on the east coast. Wednesday's drills on Xijingtan Beach focus on repelling an attack. It's a prime target because it's close to two major airfields. Analysts say protection of these airports is vital for Taiwan to stay in the fight. Taiwan conducts multiple coastal defense exercises every year across the country. But the evolving threat from China shows that it must continue to adapt to the changing situation, making sure it can repel an attack from any direction. Chris Ma and Jaime Ocon for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's opposition is struggling to unite ahead of next year's elections. 3 opposition figures want to be president, and as John Van Trieste now reports, a possible alliance between 2 of them shows signs of falling apart.
With just under 3 months until Taiwan's presidential election, the three-way rift in the opposition isn't healing. Candidates Hou You-yi and Ko Wen-je have both shown up here at the Global Views Leaders Forum in Taipei. But despite talk of an alliance between them, they went on stage separately. And instead of talking to one another, they talked about one another.
Take
it easy. For a joint ticket to work, one will have to drop out of the race and run as vice president. Neither can agree how to pick who that should be. And it's not just these two vying for power. The wild card in this campaign is electronics tycoon Terry Guo. If he gets enough signatures to get on the ballot, he'll be yet another opposition candidate. And a fresh poll from news site New Talk shows that with him in the mix, the opposition would be too split to win, handing the ruling DPP another term. Hou You-yi and Ko Wen-je haven't completely given up on an alliance.
我跟柯市长的整个沟通，我相信管道都是非常畅通的。
其实要见面不是不可以，回去考虑看看。
But there are signs a different alliance could be forming instead. Ko Wen-je sent Terry Guo a bouquet on his birthday.
我跟柯主席一直是很熟识的老朋友。
It's unclear if this is an overture or just a friendly gesture. But if the polls are right, Taiwan's divided opposition has little time to work out some kind of alliance if it wants victory in 2024. Joseph Wu and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
The man who's leading the polls to be the next president, Lai Ching-te of Taiwan's ruling party, has laid out his plans to reach net zero carbon emissions by 2050. Rick Lauert was there.
Here at the ruling Democratic and Progressive Party's headquarters in the capital Taipei, their candidate in the upcoming presidential elections is laying out his vision for a net zero carbon emissions Taiwan. All of the major candidates in the upcoming elections agree on a net zero by 2050 target. What they differ on is how to achieve that. Unlike his rivals, Lai has committed to phasing out nuclear energy in Taiwan. He wants to develop new forms of green energy and introduce a carbon pricing system to bring emissions down.
我们现在的绿能是以太阳能
发电跟风力发电为主，未来我们势必要增加其他能源项目的开发，包括氢能源、地热能源、生质能源，还有海洋能源。
Taiwan currently relies on coal, gas and oil imports for the majority of its energy production. It's a security concern as well as an environmental problem. Lai now has to convince voters that his method of weaning Taiwan off fossil fuels and reducing carbon emissions is the way forward for Taiwan. Karma Xu and Rick Lowett in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
During high-stakes talks in Israel, US President Joe Biden has negotiated a deal to allow humanitarian aid into Gaza via Egypt. Egypt has agreed to open a crossing on Gaza's southern border to allow in 20 trucks with supplies. But the US has vetoed a United Nations Security Council resolution calling for a pause in fighting to allow aid in. Israel has blockaded Gaza after Hamas, the militant group that runs the enclave, launched an unprecedented attack on Israel almost 2 weeks ago. Israeli counterattacks continue to pound several targets in Gaza. Israel says its own borders won't be opened for aid until hostages taken by Hamas are returned.
ראשית, דרשתי את החזרת החטופים, ואנחנו עובדים יחד להחזרתם בכל דרך אפשרית. לא נאפשר סיוע הומניטרי של מזון ותרופות משטחנו לרצועת עזה.
Protests have erupted in the Middle East and across the globe as thousands of people express their anger over a deadly explosion at a Gaza hospital. Palestinian health officials say 500 were killed in the blast, figures that have been disputed by some expert analyses. Israel and Hamas are blaming each other for the blast. Israel says it was a misfired rocket launch from the Islamic Jihad militant group, while Hamas says it was an airstrike from Israel. US President Joe Biden says US intelligence indicates that Israel is not responsible for the blast. Chinese President Xi Jinping has announced an 8-point plan for the future of his country's expansive and controversial Belt and Road Initiative. Laurel Stewart reports.
China is announcing a new focus for its expansive Belt and Road Initiative. Leaders from more than 140 countries joined China's Xi Jinping in Beijing for the third Belt and Road Forum. It marks 10 years since China's president launched the trillion-dollar plan known as the BRI to build power plants, roads, railways and ports across the globe. And now, Xi is promising fresh funding for the BRI. He says the focus will be on green and tech-based projects. He also announced a new global initiative for the governance of artificial intelligence.
中方将持续深化绿色基建、绿色能源、绿色交通等领域合作，加大对“一带一路”绿色发展国际联盟的支持。
It's a shift away from the large and expensive BRI-funded infrastructure projects that have caused headaches for China. 155 countries have signed BRI contracts, and China has launched more than 3,000 projects. But a trade war with the United States, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and the COVID pandemic all have hampered Chinese investments.
The Belt and Road has lost some momentum for various reasons. One has to simply do with the problem of the post-COVID recovery. You know, the COVID period really had tremendous disruptive effect on the supply chain that the Belt and Road was also supposed to be a part of.
These economic concerns come amid huge build-ups of debt. China loaned money to countries as part of the BRI, but some developing countries have struggled to repay. Some analysts say China's shift towards greener and more people-focused projects shows it's now lending more cautiously.
We see the rise of the small is beautiful slogan, where there's a push to encourage more intentional investment, particularly in smaller projects that introduce less debt exposure.
But some analysts say China will still reserve some investments for traditional infrastructure projects, such as this recently unveiled high-speed railway in Indonesia.
I don't think it's going to be shifting priorities too much. It will incorporate digital, but I don't think it's going to prioritize digital over traditional infrastructure.
The guest list for this year's forum includes Russian President Vladimir Putin, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, and a representative of the Taliban, while European and US representation were notably limited. Despite the geopolitical divide, this event shows there's still many countries willing to listen to what Beijing has to offer. Eason Pan and Laurel Stewart for TaiwanPlus.
Russia's foreign minister has thanked North Korea for supporting Moscow's war in Ukraine. Sergei Lavrov spoke during a two-day visit to Pyongyang. He also pledged Russia's complete support for North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. The visit comes a month after Kim visited Russia to discuss military cooperation. 2 Chinese nationals detained in Taiwan on charges of spying and money laundering have returned to Hong Kong. Zhang Xin and his wife Gong Qing were arrested in 2019 and prevented from leaving Taiwan for almost 4 years. Prosecutors accused the couple of spying, but later dropped the case due to a lack of evidence. The pair were later cleared of other money laundering charges. Last week, prosecutors decided not to appeal the High Court's verdict, allowing the couple to return home. Taiwan's Super Basketball League has expelled a player over allegations of match fixing. That's after Wu Jiying was questioned by police over claims he accepted up to $15,000 per game from bookies to influence outcomes. He's been released on bail and confined to his home. Wu has issued an online apology and promised to cooperate with the investigation. Taiwan's declining birth rates are making it hard for schools in rural areas to fill classes. But as enrollment numbers elsewhere drop, one school in Taiwan's south is attracting new students by taking them under. Harel Hughes dives in.
These students are not on summer holiday. This is a part of their school day. They're students at the Xiaowa Luan branch of Kenting Elementary School, and the classes they attend are unique. The school's curriculum is based on the ocean, and classes include scuba diving, beach cleanups, and interacting with wildlife.
很多校外教学，就是
哪方面的？
潜水或是去别的地方过夜什么的。功课比较少，不然在台北都6样，有时候10样。
Taiwan has one of the lowest birth rates in the world. As a result, schools in the country's rural areas in particular are struggling to fill classes. But this school in a remote part of Pingdong County in Taiwan's south is bucking the trend. It's seen increased enrollment. And some parents even travel long distances every day to drop their kids off.
这些越区的家长呢，其实来我们这边都非常的远，每天来回2趟接送就要花掉他们将近1个半小时的时间。这些家长真的非常的辛苦。
The school's popularity is a testament to the power of combining education with Taiwan's natural resources, and shows that even with dropping birth rates, creative education methods can produce an ocean of opportunities. Leon Lian and Harel Hughes for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Remember to download the TaiwanPlus app for more news from Taiwan and around the world. Finally today, we leave you with images of an art installation in Paris. I'm Louise Watt. Take care, and we'll see you next time.
Start your weekend with a cup of coffee and a moment to reflect on what happened this week.
Hello and welcome.
We've got you covered, from defense and politics to high tech and the arts.
Not just to Taiwan, the whole world is watching.
You make the coffee, we make the news. Here's what happened on TaiwanPlus.